I think instead of reading through all of the Isaiah text with you, because during the message we're gonna read through it together, I'll just read through it as part of the message. So I'm gonna jump ahead a little bit. And you've got it printed for you in your service folder, so if you want to follow along there, you most definitely can. But we will read all of those verses. We're just not going to read them first and then read them as we talk about them. We kind of entered this series last week for those that were here. Come Thou Long Unexpected Jesus, kind of playing off that Advent hymn. It talks about an expected Jesus. During this Advent and Christmas season, we're looking at the words of Isaiah, some of the different prophecies that come together in foretelling Jesus coming and then Jesus actually coming. And at the same time waiting for Jesus to come again. And today's reading definitely abounds with unexpected images. So I'm going to pick up kind of in the middle, and we'll get back to the opening verses. But if you look at verse 6, where it starts there, just look at what's happening there. The wolf shall dwell with the lamb, and the leopard shall lie down with the young goat. The calf and the lion and the fattened calf together, and a little child. We have some little children up here before, right? A little child shall lead them. That's not really expected, is it? I mean, I don't expect my kids to lead some of those wild animals, and I don't expect those to be found together. The cow and the bear shall graze. Their young shall lie down together. Oh, the bear cubs and the calves? Yeah, I've never seen that. The lion shall eat straw like the ox. The nursing child, we've got one of those here too, I think. The nursing child shall play over the hole of the cobra. It's probably not what new parents expect, no. And the weaned child shall put his hand on the adder's den. Hebrew, the language, or at least biblical Hebrew as I've understood or been told, only has about 6,000 words in its vocabulary. That sounds like a lot at first. You're like, well, that's a lot of words to learn. Yeah, I didn't learn all of them, and I've forgotten most of what I did learn. But in biblical Hebrew, in that among Jewish people who, when the Old Testament books were written, that's about the size of the vocabulary, if you will. To give you an idea, though, modern English, and I think most of us here grew up speaking English, so we've got a decent grasp on the language. We've got about 1 million words in our vocabulary right now. You might not know all of them, but it gives you an idea of sort of the breadth of language. And it also kind of gives a picture for, in English we've got words that get pretty precise in terms of their meaning. And a lot of words sort of get segmented out, and we've got multiple words that mean kind of the same thing, but mean slightly different things. Well, we don't have quite as much of that in Hebrew. And so a lot of words, to an English speaker's understanding, kind of do double duty, or they carry a wider breadth of meaning without ruling other things out. And so Hebrew, sometimes in translating, the challenge is that Hebrew is less precise, and all the words we have in English are just a little bit more nuanced. And so it narrows the meaning almost a little too much. And so why do I share all this? Because I want to point out in that first verse, the wolf shall dwell with the lamb. The word for dwell, something like gur, is really more commonly throughout the Old Testament translated as sojourn. And in both those English words, dwell and sojourn, we see the overlap, but we also see where, like, in English, if I choose one or the other, they tend to point to different things, right? They tend to mean slightly different things. But I want to bring that sojourning idea in a little bit as we look at this, and the wolf lying down with the lamb, because it's not just that the wolf and the lamb are roommates, okay? That's a part of the picture, but it's as if the lamb is like the homeowner, okay? And the wolf, I don't know, they found him on Airbnb or something, and the wolf is paying to stay there, and the wolf is actually receiving lodging from the lamb. The lamb is the one in charge. In other words, the lamb is in control of the resources. The lamb is in a position of power and is the one who is taking initiative to share in that sense. Because it's the wolf who's out of place. The wolf is sojourner. The wolf is a foreigner, a stranger, dependent on the other one. And I highlight that relationship just at the start of that the number of pictures there, because it's indicative of the entire section. That's how all the relationships there really kind of work. The one that we assume is weaker is actually the more powerful, is what Isaiah is saying. It's counterintuitive and it's quite unexpected. Those who appear strong in our eyes are depending on those who might appear more weak. A child is leading these wild animals. There's no fear of a toddler playing around the home of a dangerous snake. It's not just unexpected either, it's unimaginable. It doesn't fit reality as I've seen it, as I know it, as I live it. The scenarios all seem a little bit ludicrous because every experience in there, it should lead to death. Something should be dying if these animals and these things are coming together. We expect the wolf is going to eat the lamb. The lion's going to eat the calves and the ox. The cow and the bear should be afraid of each other, and they should definitely be afraid of their offspring, their kids being around one another. The child should be nowhere near those venomous snakes because one bite could lead to death. But what does Isaiah say? They shall not hurt or destroy in all my holy mountain. We talked about a mountain last week. For the earth shall be full of the knowledge of the Lord as the waters cover the sea. This picture can never come true. Unless what I know to be true can change. Which forces us, I think, to take a closer look at the verses leading up to this. The verses at the beginning of this prophecy. And so I'm going to jump back now with you to verse 1 and how Isaiah starts off. There shall come forth a shoot from the stump of Jesse, and a branch from his roots shall bear fruit. So what was true? What was reality for Israel when Isaiah wrote these words and he talks about a stump and a shoot and these things? Well, they'd been defeated. They were laid low. In previous chapters in Isaiah, just leading up to this, Isaiah has described them as a forest that's been clear-cut. Kind of like this. A whole bunch of stumps. That's the picture, that's the imagery that's already been laid out. Isaiah 6, Isaiah writes this. Then I said, how long, O Lord? He said, until cities lie waste without inhabitant, and houses without people, and the land is a desolate waste. There's a desolate waste for you. And the Lord removes people far away. The forsaken places are many in the midst of the land. And though a tenth remain in it, it will be burned again. Like a terebinth, that's a tree. Like a terebinth or an oak whose stump remains when it is felled. This is what Israel will look like. This is what Israel's begun to look like. This is the picture of Israel. And a little later, speaking about Israel's pride and the arrogance of people there and hearing some of these prophecies, God says this. The bricks have fallen. Oh, this is how he describes their attitude. People in Israel are saying, well, the bricks have fallen, but we'll build with dressed stones. So the cheap stuff fell apart, but we'll use better things. The sycamores have been cut down, but we will put cedars in their place. Because they believe in themselves. But God has plans. He has plans for this nation which has been cut down, which he's laid low. He's used Assyria, a neighboring nation, to create this, to cut them down, to make them desolate. But he also speaks against Assyria. In Isaiah 10, just prior to this prophecy that we're looking at this morning, God says, shall the axe boast over him who hews with it, or the saw magnify itself against him who wields it? See, Assyria is only the axe, but God is the lumberjack. God is the one who's cut Israel down. He's used Assyria to do it. And now Assyria is getting prideful, so God says, well, I'm going to cut Assyria down too. But this picture, this is the truth that Israel knows. This is the reality that they're living in. They've been laid low, and their power is no more. They've been defeated. The northern kingdom has already been taken into exile, and Isaiah is speaking to the southern kingdom, and Assyria is knocking on their doors. What once was a vibrant forest is now a collection of stumps. And where once there was life, death is abundant. This is truth. And this is what Israel knows to be true. But what if truth can be changed? What if what's true doesn't have to stand forever? What if there can be new life from a stump? From a dead tree? A shoot? A branch? A bud? Which becomes a leaf? Which grows and bears seeds? Which spreads and takes root? Can that happen? What fields of barren stumps exist in your field of vision? What's true in your life? What do you look around and see, and it looks like this? Is Calvary, is this place a field of barren stumps? How many trees have been cut down here? How many dreams have died? Quite a few. What about in your family? What losses have you endured? What trees have been cut down? Or in your own life, as an individual? The loss of some ability, is that a stump? Maybe finances? A tree that's dropped? The loss of identity, not knowing quite who I am or where I fit in. It can feel like something's gone. Where there used to be a forest, the field of stumps. Is that what you know to be true? Is that what is true? Unless, right? Unless what we know to be true can change. Could there be a new shoot, a new branch from an old stump? Could there be life where death seems to be in control? If so, where would that come from? What might that look like? And the Spirit of the Lord shall rest upon him, the Spirit of wisdom and understanding, the Spirit of counsel and might, the Spirit of knowledge and the fear of the Lord. And his delight shall be in the fear of the Lord. He shall not judge by what his eyes see, or decide disputes by what his ears hear. He's not going to make those judgments and those calls according to what looks to be true, what seems to be true, by what limits seem to exist. But with righteousness he shall judge the poor, and decide with equity for the meek of the earth. And he shall strike the earth with the rod of his mouth, and with the breath of his lips he shall kill the wicked. Righteousness shall be the belt of his waist, and faithfulness the belt of his loins. See, you and I, like Israel, it's easy to look at those stumps where there used to be life, and there used to be something living, vibrant, growing, and it seems to have died. And it seems to be gone, and there seems to be no hope. And we struggle with that. Every one of us. Because it's struggling with disappointment. It's struggling with the disappointment of what I thought was going to be, and what I expected to be, and what I was looking forward to, and I can't look forward to that. Because that's not going to happen. And so all I can see is what's dead. And the problem, I think, that we run into is this. Is that my life defines truth for me. The things I experience and the things I've been through and the places where I stand, that's what defines what is true and what is real. We struggle with it. Israel struggled with this. And what they needed was hope. Hope for one who would show them something different. They needed a picture of one who would not find truth within this world. They needed a picture of one who would know truth defined by something else, and would allow that truth to inform what they saw and what they taught and where they went and what they would show to people. The Spirit of the Lord shall rest upon him. See, that's what Isaiah is pointing to. That's what he's reminding us that we see in Jesus. There's one who doesn't just pull truth and reality out of an experience that we have here within this world, but he brings truth to us that's bigger, that takes a different perspective. And we need that just as much as Israel did. We need to be reminded that the truth is not entirely defined by what we see and what we hear. Truth is not subject to our perspective or our situation. Truth is bigger than you and I. Truth is bigger than what we accomplish, or really what we can fully comprehend, and that's good. That's really good. Truth is, because it means that truth is bigger than the problems that we face and the difficulties we experience. And it leads us to a solution to this issue of truth being defined by my life. Because instead, truth defines my life for me. Truth tells me how to understand my life and my place in this world. See, Israel was not defined by their losses. Israel was not the property of Assyria, even though they were paying tribute. Israel was not the property of some foreign nation. That was not the truth underneath everything. Israel was still the people of God. See, Israel was not a defeated territory. They were a child being disciplined. Both are difficult, but one offers hope. Truth wasn't defined by what they could see. Truth was defined by what God could see and by what he promised to do. Truth was known by the Spirit of the Lord. See, and you are not defined by your losses either. You're not someone who used to serve in this way or that way. You're not a former parent or former spouse. You're not a school that closed or a pastor who used to serve. You're not a defeated attempt at being church, because your God has not been defeated. Because you don't serve yourself or one another. You serve one who stands in front of you. You serve the one who leads you. You serve the one who brings truth to you and tells you what is true. See, you are a child of God. You are a child of God, and he's the victor. And so you're on the victor's team. Truth is not defined entirely by what you can see. Truth is defined by what God can see and by what he's promised for you. See, this truth is still made known by the Spirit of God, and that truth is seen in Jesus. In that day, the root of Jesse, who shall stand as a signal for the peoples, of him shall the nations inquire, and his resting place shall be glorious. Israel's prophecy ends with these words, and it reminds us of what he points forward to for Israel and what's pointed forward to for us, of who Jesus is and what he does for us. He is the signal. He's the signpost. His suffering was not weakness, but humility. His death was not defeat, but a payment for you and I. The truth of these things was revealed in his resurrection. We know this truth, and we know his promise to supply new life. Jesus is the signal. He's the signpost, and Jesus reveals the truth. Truth declares that you have value beyond what your eyes can see. Beyond what the world around you tells you is true or is real. You are loved and you are valued. Truth declares that you have a value beyond what this world will pay. Truth declares that your life is only beginning. Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. And the truth is, you are his. Amen. Would you please stand?